So you got a messy socket drawer and you're looking to fix that problem. But man, you see the price of these socket rails. I don't want to spend $20 a rail or even more per rail. What do? Well, Harbor Freight has these $4 3-rail combos. Let's see if they're any good. Alright, so first things first, you get 3 socket rails for 1/4, 3/8, and half for $4. There's probably not a cheaper socket rail solution. So if you're looking for the cheapest option out there, I'm going to probably say that it's these right off the bat. But I think there's some things you should know about these things. So let's get into them a little bit further. First off, just grabbing this and holding it in my hand compared to something like the Husky, I can tell right off the bat that these are different types of plastic, and they're certainly not equal, though they look very similar in design, and in pictures you might think that they are the same. They are definitely different types of plastics. There's how that one sounds dropping. That's how that one sounds. So the difference in the plastic may not matter to you, especially at this price point. $4 for 3 rails. How could you go wrong? See, as you can see right here, there's some basically there's extra plastic hanging off the edge of that. And it's like that on quite a few of these, really. Not exactly the same, but there's just loose, jagged plastic edges. All right, just looking at the quality of this, you can tell that it's just not molded to the same degree of quality, nor is it the same quality of plastic as something like the Husky rail, which these don't have any extra plastic hanging off of them that should have been trimmed off. Like, just looking at it, you can tell that the Husky rail, for instance, is made to a higher degree of quality. But the Husky rail is not $4 for 3 rails, so there's that. Like, you can really see it on this one. There's inconsistencies in like the extra plastic there on the front from where it was injected. See, like this one's got a whole bunch of extra plastic. From far away, they look fine, but you get close, get your hands on them, you realize they are cheaper. They're made cheaper. They cost less. It should be expected. There's just no way that they're selling these for $4 and they're equal to these Husky ones or even these previous Craftsman ones that you used to be able to get. Now, of course, you can go crazy with these things because there's these Husky aluminum rails. I have some Aries ones right here. And you can, you could go for broke on these socket rails. So it's really up to you on, how you use them, how often you use your tools. Is it going to stay in the box? Is it going to come out of the box? How expensive are the tools that you're storing? There's just so many factors, but we're not going to dwell on that too much. I'm going to go ahead and put some sockets on these rails and just see what that experience is like. All right, just for comparison's sake, real quick, these are this is a Craftsman rail built very similarly in quality to the Husky, and I've been using these for probably going on 8 years, I think, and they work great. I'm always grabbing socket rails as a whole and throwing them in a tool bag or something and taking them on the go, and they've worked great. What I have on here right now is a bunch of 1/2-inch standard depth sockets going all the way up to 36 mil here at the end. And one thing that I like about these is this rail is sturdy. I can grab this whole rail of large sockets and there's a little bit of shake to it, a little bit of flex, but I don't feel like it's gonna break, and I've never had an issue with one of these breaking. All right, guys, thanks to the Harbor Freight socket rails being the same length as the Craftsman socket rails that I was using, I was able to get the same exact amount of sockets on this rail, and it does hold them all, holds the sockets. It looks a lot more jiggly and flexy to me. The sockets want to move around on here quite a bit, but you know what? It's getting the job done. Definitely a lot more flex. I don't know how these would hold up in in a tool bag with some other tools, you know, getting transported around. But as it stands right now, they're doing what they need to do. One thing I am actually kind of impressed with is for these being cheaper rails, the little ball action on there that keeps the socket on the socket holder actually works pretty well. Holds it on well enough. We have no sockets falling off. So here we go, sockets are back on the Craftsman rail. Let's create a little spot in the middle like we had last time. So as you can see, there's not nearly as much flex. So the rail stiffness, due mostly to probably the type of plastic they're using, it's a lot more rigid on the Craftsman. It feels a lot, it just feels like a lot better quality. But it costs a lot more too, so Harbor Freight only sells these in 3-packs or 3 rail sets just like this, 1/4 inch drive, 3/8 and half. So if you're trying to build larger 1/2 inch sets, you're kind of forced into buying more of this set or finding more of these socket holders that fit the rail. But in my experience, buying just these alone can cost as much as buying this whole set, keeping in mind that this is only $4. So if you need more of these, regardless of the size, you might as well just grab a bunch of these and set aside what you don't need. One thing that's cool about the Huskies is when you buy them, it's relative to the size drive you buy them for. So 1/4 inch comes on a short rail, 3/8 comes on a longer rail. I don't have the 1/2 inch drive one, but it's even longer yet. And you can take these adapters and switch the rails. So there's a little more mixing and matching you can do there. And you can set these up on these smaller rails for, you know, different jobs or, you know, just a different socket arrangement that you might want to organize. Where these, you would have to, you know, manually cut them down and block them off so the sockets don't fall off, or just deal with the length because that's all that's available. One thing to note about these plastic rails is they look similar oftentimes, but they are not always the same size. So like here's the Husky, for example. See the center channel there is a bit more narrow on the Husky, meaning that these socket holders are not going to fit these other rails. So when you're looking for more of those holders, you need to make sure that they're the right size for the rail. And even though they look similar, you could be buying ones that are incompatible. All right, so we don't have all the 1/4 inch drives that I had on the Craftsman rail, but once again, we can see there's a ton of flex. All right, here we go again with shake test on the Craftsman rails. It's a lot more rigid. All right, so we have a Harbor Freight rail full of impact grade. These are gear wrench, standard depth, 1/2 inch drive sockets. The far end here is 36 mil, and it's like 32, 31, and just kind of down the sizes. So there's definitely some flex. All the, let's see here. All the sockets are staying on the rail still. I mean, this is probably about as heavy of sockets as you're going to put on these rails. Most people won't be using them for this purpose, but it's getting the job done. They come off and go on there pretty well. It does what it's supposed to. See if I grab it towards the end here. Get some mega flex. Not breaking though. I feel like it's on the verge of breaking, but not breaking. All right, so the length on these, I'm getting about 13 7/8. You get 16 spots for sockets on the 1/4 inch, you get 16 on the 3/8, and you get 12 on the 1/2 inch drive. All right, guys, so what's the takeaway on the Harbor Freight $4 socket rail set? Well, you get 3 of these rails, just under 14 inches long. You get 16 spots for 1/4 inch and 3/8 drives, and you get 12 spots for 1/2 inch drive. At $4, you really can't go wrong with these. They're not equal to something like the Husky rails, so if you are looking for better quality, you might consider those rails. As far as getting the job done, these absolutely are going to organize your sockets. The sockets, at least from the set that I bought, the sockets go on these well enough, and they come off fine. They seem to stay on decently well. Really, at $4, you can't go wrong with these. So go on and get out there and get you some socket rail holders, whether it's the $4 ones or the $20 ones. There's really no excuse for you to have a messy socket drawer. I'll catch you guys later.